The doppelganger, the counterfeits are coming for what is yours. Protect it. So I prayed and I asked God, what should I speak about today? And so when you want to hear from the Lord, you need to get into his word, because that is how he is speaking, based off of what he has already said. So I went into the Bible, and I didn't try to turn to any particular chapter. So I just opened it up, and I went to Kings, and I was drawn to the Kings in the Bible. But before we even get to that, and that's what pretty much led this talk for today. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about a doppelganger, because this is very interesting. God gave me the word doppelganger, and I've heard it before. So I looked it up, and if you Google it, there's lots of terms on doppelganger, but these two terms I would like to use. It says the term doppelganger is sometimes used in a more metaphorical sense to describe who is a double of another person in terms of personality, behavior, or even political beliefs. And then another term says, while the paranormal aspect of doppelgangers is widely discussed, modern interpretations also consider them in terms of lookalikes, or people who share a striking resemblance. So basically, a doppelganger is somebody who admires you, but they don't admire you in a godly sense. They admire you in a very sinister way. They will, monitor you, copy you, try to impersonate, and may even want to dress like you and start to look like you. And they do that in order to take and steal what is yours. So we all know it. I say this in several of my videos, that the enemy comes to what? And you should know this by now if you've been watching. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Now, a lot of times when I say that word kill, when you think of that word kill, or let me just say take out, right? I'm not sure if I can say that word on YouTube. That pretty much is not always literally, but pretty much just completely, utterly destroy, dismantle, get rid of anything that is yours, your blessings, in order to steal it from you. So the thief cometh to kill, steal, and destroy. Who is the thief? The kingdom of darkness, Satan and his fallen angels. And so it's important to know, because we are spiritual beings living in a natural world, right? It's important to know that the enemy, anytime you have a blessing, anytime God is giving you something, the enemy will always try to take it, because the enemy is fueled by jealousy. They don't want you to have nothing that belongs to you. And so I want to take us to Kings. If you can follow along, I encourage you all to just go ahead and read the whole full chapter of Kings. But I'm going to chop it up a little bit for this video for the sake of time. And I'm going to pull out some key scriptures in Kings just to allow you all to get the gist of an example of just how far a doppelganger, just how far a counterfeit will actually go in order to take what's yours. So it's important to stay vigilant. It's important to stay prayerful. It's important to stay aware and watchful. Because just because God promises us something or promises you something, just because something is yours, doesn't mean the enemy is not after it. Matter of fact, and I've learned this throughout my life. So those of you who are younger than me, who may not have, or even older, who haven't experienced what I'm about to talk about, right? I can guarantee you that if you live long enough, somebody or even a group of people or a situation, you will see the enemy will always come for your stuff. So even if God opens the door for you, gives you that position, gives you that marriage, gives you that child, gives you those friends, whatever God does for you, always know that the enemy is going to try to come and take it. So expect it. Always expect it. Anything that is good and perfect from the Lord, right? All good, perfect gifts come from God, the Father of lights. Know that Satan doesn't like that. The enemy doesn't like that. So he's always going to use a vessel. He's always going to enter in someone who's probably fueled by jealousy, right? Because they've been monitoring you, trying to be like you, admiring you in a sinister way. He's going to use this person as a vehicle to take what's yours. So we're going to go to Kings. And I pretty much want to talk about, there was a man. So Kings talks about there was a man. His name was Adon. Forgive me, I may may not pronounce this name correctly. But there was a name named Adonijah, right? And Adonijah was Prophet Samuel's brother. Their father was King David. And during this time, King David was getting old. He was in his old age. And so Adonijah, if you go to Kings chapter 1, verse 5 and 6, it says, "Then Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared for himself chariots and horsemen and 50 men to run before him. And his father had not rebuked him at any time by saying, Why have you done so? He also was very good looking. His mother had borne him after Absalom." So this person, Adonijah, he is one of King David's sons. And his father is old. So he tries to take advantage of the fact that his father is old and exalts himself, because his father is basically near death. He's in his old age. He exalts himself and says, I will be king. And I don't know, the Bible doesn't really say if King David was asleep or, but he was in his old age and he needed someone to care for him. So here comes a son of his son, and comes and tries to take advantage of a situation and exalts himself. So then if you go to Kings, go to verse 9, it says, "And Adonijah sacrificed sheep and oxen and fattened cattle by the stone of Zonhilith, which is by En Rogel. He also invited all his brothers, the king's sons, and all the men of Judah, the king's servants." And then verse 10 says, "But," watch this now, "he did not invite Nathan, the prophet, Benijah, the mighty men, or Solomon, his brother." So here you have this person. He's doing all of this. He's changing the environment and he's making it look like and setting it up that he is supposed to be king when nobody told him that he would be king in his father's place after his father passed away. But he's basically doing witchcraft, making it appear, manipulating the situation, manipulating the narrative, so that people will believe that he's actually supposed to come and be king after his father and reign. So notice that he did not invite two people. He didn't invite Nathan the prophet, who was one of King David's servants. And he did not invite his one brother Solomon, right? Because see, Solomon, his father had promised Solomon's mother that Solomon would reign as king after him. So his brother knew that, you know. It doesn't say how his brother may have found out that information. Perhaps, you know, he was monitoring, or perhaps his father may have said this and announced it to the family at one time. But he went as far as to imitate what a king would do in this situation, right? And he waited until his father was weak, when his father's mind was probably, forgetful because he was in his old age, to come forward to try to take someone else's inheritance, someone else's promise that does not belong to him. And so if you go to verse 13, it says, go immediately. Now this is verse 13. Now, this is Nathan, the prophet. And he's also, I explained, he's a servant of King David. He goes to Bathsheba. Bathsheba is Solomon's mother. And he gives her advice because he hears about this. And he goes to her. And this is what he says. If you go to verse 13, he says, go immediately to King David and say to him, did you not, my lord, O king, swear to your maidservant, saying, assuredly your son Solomon shall reign after me, and he shall sit on my throne? Why then has Adonijah become king? So, if you go down to verse 28, we're still in Kings, chapter 1, go to verse 28, it says, then King David answered and said, call Bathsheba to me. So he was speaking to, King David. Goes to, Nathan goes, the prophet. He is speaking to King David as well, after Bathsheba goes and speaks to him. And so she must have left out of the room or wherever they were speaking. And he basically is saying in verse 28, he calls her back. So verse 28 says, then King David answered and said, call Bathsheba to me. So she came into the king's presence and stood before the king. And the king took an oath and said, as the Lord lives, who has redeemed my life from every distress, just as I swore to you by the Lord God of Israel, saying, assuredly Solomon your son shall be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne in my place. So I certainly will do this day. So then after that, King David goes before the people, and he must have announced that Solomon will be king after him. So today, I just want to remind somebody, because there is somebody who's going to see this video, and you are dealing with people who want what is yours. They may want your position. They may want your spouse. They may want your life. They may want your joy. It doesn't always have to be something that's monetary or something that's like actual material. It could be something internal that you possess. And so the enemy will sneakingly and cunningly come. You won't even see it coming, or you may see it coming if you have discernment. But he will always come for everything you have. Now, I'm a person in my mid-40s, right? I've noticed that in my earlier time, God blessed me. He has blessed me with so much, and I'm grateful to that. But as I get a little bit older, I'm noticing a little bit more as I take this walk with the Lord. I'm noticing a little bit more that everything that the Lord has blessed me with earlier in the beginning, Satan, the enemy, is working through people so hard, trying to take every single thing that the Lord has blessed me with. Every single thing. So do not be weary in well doing, because you shall reap if you faint not. Continue, what it took for you to get those blessings, what it took for you to, for God to favor you, to give you what He has given you, your inheritance. Do not take it for granted. Continue to keep a watchful eye. Be prayerful that the enemy doesn't take it. Be obedient to what God tells you to do in order to cultivate something, grow something, evolve something, because the enemy is coming for your stuff. And so that is the message today. I didn't say my name is Jill Young, and this is Awaken Authentic Self, and I thank you for watching. Please go ahead and hit the like and the subscribe if you like this message, and I will see you again another day, God willing.